Hi everybody, just wanted to do a quick video on focusing and what to look for, and especially PC connection. As we talked before, it's quite hard to focus and inspect all the images on such a small screen on a camera, and all the focusing and dealing with depth of field is quite important when we're dealing with these sorts of scans. So most of the cameras nowadays pretty much have Wi-Fi connection to remote PCs on the same wireless network, or it could be direct connection. So here I have it up and running on a PC that's using standard Sony's software. So we can just go ahead and connect to our camera and see the live feed right away. Since we're using preview lighting settings, we can crank it up temporarily up to, I don't know, 1/4. And if we go ahead, so basically this software is very similar for Canon and other cameras. I have output path here, so we can go and just hit take image, and it should show up in this folder. There you go. So one thing to keep in mind, don't try to have it connected and have images transferred this way. It's going to be pretty slow. It's really just for the preview purposes. But here we could see, like with any viewer, zoom in and inspect and make sure that we have really nice range, depth of field range across the model. And it's also pretty easy to I think I have this video also recorded off screen, so we can look at it later, but in better quality. But if I scroll over there, and we can see how it changes. And this is pretty much what you would want to do. You can also basically tune your focusing, and the main parameters to play with is the ISO. Ideally, you want to have the as low ISO level as possible. Typically it will be 100, but it can go for some cameras below that. And we want to find such an F value to get the best compromise between sharpness and depth of field. And with respect to exposure time, then we want it to be as slow as possible, but not slower than the frame rate, or like twice the frame rate at what we capture images. So let's say if we capture 2 frames per second, then 4 frames per second would be the maximum, as long exposure as we can do, and 4 frames per second, it's 1/4 of a second. So technically, when we scanned this guy, I used ISO 200 and 1/15, and for that frame rate, it would be actually more optimal to use ISO of 100 and 1/8. So that would be the optimal settings. And in terms of that f-stop, I have some stuff captured a while back that sort of demonstrates the issue. So here we have, it's the same model, but we have these slices going from f1/8, 1/4, 1/6, 1/5.6, and so on and so on. And here we could see basically things that are closer to the focal plane, things that are further away. And in this image, you could see that around f16 and f11, you get the sharpest image and the widest depth of field. and at f22 pretty much everything would turn into across the board into blurry mess, and at that point we're basically hitting the diffraction limit already. So we know that for this specific camera, for this specific lens, for that specific focusing distance, these are the parameters that we would want to use. And this is another example also. If we zoom out, we can see that as we close the aperture, we get wider depth of field, and at some point we also get sharper, sharper, and sharper. At some point it's pretty sharp, and then it degrades. In this case, it's at f22. So what I'm trying to say is that these settings, it doesn't make sense to ask anybody what settings do they use, because all these things are very individual. They're dependent on what lens you use, what camera you use, at what distances you photograph something. Primarily those are the main factors. So it doesn't make sense to reuse any or somebody else's parameters. You just set it up, you literally do this whole exercise, you do this pixel picking, and you basically pick the one that works best for you. And this is really the whole point of having this ability to take this preview pictures on PC, control the f-stop parameter, aperture, take these images and inspect everything up close. And you would do this for 2D material scans as well as for props. So I think we covered that. And as I said, don't try to have it up and running and try to download images while scanning, because over Wi-Fi it's not gonna work. That it's not designed for that. Okay, I think we covered everything.